A lot of people are mad at teachers right now, or should I say a lot of bots on Twitter are mad at teachers right now. Oh wait, that's an Arizona state legislator. Wait, that's the Arizona superintendent of schools, like the state superintendent. What's happening? This year, there's been a lot of commotion about teachers, especially in traditionally red states. Now, for my foreign viewers, you're going to have to forgive me because going over the entire U.S. education system and what's led up to this is sort of above my level of expertise. I apologize in advance if this video comes off as confusing. I mean, I'm confused. I'm the one writing the thing. Part 1. An objective account. I'm going to do my best to keep my opinion out of this for a second. Here's a timeline of events leading up to May 2018, I guess. The story of workers' rights and progressive policy starts, of course, in West Virginia. All right. On February 22nd, 2018, West Virginia teachers staged a walkout. A walkout is essentially a strike, but due to laws in many states, teachers aren't allowed to strike, so officially it's a walkout. The idea is that enough teachers in a district call out sick, the district is forced to close due to lack of staff. Why did they walk out? There hadn't been a statewide strike in West Virginia since 1990, according to Politico. Teachers cited poor pay and working conditions. Depending on what ranking metric you use, West Virginia falls in the bottom 5 amongst states for teacher pay and hasn't raised teacher wages since 2014. Stagnant wages are one thing, but when you remember that the rate of inflation is 1 or 2%, every year a teacher, or anyone for that matter, doesn't get at least a 1 or 2% raise, they're effectively paid less, as everything becomes more expensive due to inflation. But hey, this isn't an economics lesson. After 9 days, the walkout ended due to a 5% pay raise that covered not only teachers, but thousands of classified employees. Classified employees are pretty much anybody who works at a school that isn't a teacher or administrator, food workers, bus drivers, secretaries, and such. The funding source is undetermined at this time, but the plan seems to be to cut from other programs rather than raise taxes. We move next to Oklahoma. Oklahoma also ranks in the bottom 5 for teacher pay and is also a heavily red state. The walkout there also lasted 9 days starting April 2nd, 2018, but their situation was a little different. West Virginia teachers were offered a 2% raise before the walkout, and afterwards they ended up with 5%. Oklahoma teachers were given a raise of about $6,000 before the walkout, including a $1,000 raise for classified employees, but the deal didn't really get better. During the walkout, Governor of Oklahoma, Mary Fallin, compared the strike to a teenager wanting a new car, getting it, and demanding a better one, and also expressed concern that the walkout would interfere with standardized testing. After several weeks of protests and walk-ins, Arizona teachers also had a walkout, this time lasting 6 days from April 26 to May 3rd, 2018. By the way, a walk-in is where teachers still go to work, but only after having a bit of a rally outside the school before contract hours begin. It's like to build public support. Arizona ranks in the bottom 5 among states for teacher pay and is, you guessed it, Republican, but not quite as deep red as West Virginia or Oklahoma. Arizona has endured $1.1 billion annually in cuts to education funding since the start of the Great Recession in 2008, and further funding has been funneled off to fuel school voucher programs, but more on those in a bit. Arizona teachers were originally offered a 2% raise by Governor Doug Ducey, and eventually, after more protests, that was upped to 20%. This 20% was rejected by the two organizations representing the protests, the American Education Association, which is a national thing, and Arizona Educators United, better known as #RedForEd, which was a local grassroots movement. The reason the initial offer was rejected is that it cited no funding source and only raised teacher salaries. It had no raise for classified employees. The walkout ended after the state legislature passed a portion of the state budget that allowed for a 10% guaranteed raise for teachers and an additional unguaranteed 10% raise over the course of 3 years, with no raise for classified employees and no source of continued funding other than growth. The idea being that Arizona's economy is on the upswing, and the growth will lead to more tax money, which will be enough to cover these raises. There is also about $300 million being added to the Education General Fund to be spent at the district's discretion, along with money to build a couple of new schools. The #RedForEd movement has now turned to focus on a ballot measure to increase education funding further through an increase in property taxes for residents making more than $250,000 annually, or families making more than $500,000 annually. Part 2. School Vouchers. Alright, the rest of this thing is going to contain a lot of opinion. Get ready. I mentioned that Arizona isn't quite as red as the other states in this situation. AZ is kind of a don't tell me what to do state. It's a bunch of people from other states who left for their own reasons, ranging from I don't like how cold Michigan is to I don't like how many rules California has. See that other section there? That's mostly independence, and that's what Arizonas want to be above all, independent. School vouchers allow Arizona parents to take tax money that would have gone towards a public school education and use it to offset charter and private school tuition and other school expenses. It literally takes money from the public education fund and puts it into a private school. To an Arizonan, this sounds like a friggin' good deal. It's direct control over tax money. It's the free market, right? It's fair, right? Here's the issue with charter and private schools. Public schools are held accountable for every single dollar spent. It's very hard to turn working at a public school into a money-making scheme. Charter and private schools, they aren't as regulated. In some cases, they're effectively unregulated. If you want to see a way funnier explanation of this, check out John Oliver's excellent segment. Be warned, there's a lot of swearing in it, but if you can handle that, the link is in the description. Now, there are situations where this program makes a lot of sense, but almost all of them stem from underfunded public schools. If your child has a disability and needs support, a private school may be an excellent option if you can afford it, and vouchers make this more attainable for low-income families. But that's not who benefits most from this program. Schools in Arizona get letter grades, and those determine how much state funding they get. Would it shock you to find out that the letter grades tend to be higher in high-income areas and lower in low-income ones? The amount of school voucher money you get is based on what public school your kid would be attending. In fact, part of getting your voucher is you must attend a public school for 90 days before you switch out in most cases. And then, depending on which school you attended and that school's letter grade, they give you an appropriate amount of tax money, the tax money that would have gone towards that public school. They just kind of cut you a check that must be used for education purposes. An A rating on a school gets you and your family almost 3 times as much as if they were slated to go to a D-rated school. A more direct indicator of an area's wealth is the percentage of students receiving free lunch. You can only get free lunch if your family can prove that your income is low enough to qualify for said free lunch. By this metric, you get almost twice as much from schools that have less than 60% of their students receiving free lunch. Here are the income thresholds, by the way, in case you're curious. So is this proof that the school voucher program is mostly used by people who probably don't need it in the first place? Well, no. But it's at least a little suspicious looking to me. The reason I care about school vouchers at all is that it takes millions of dollars in funding from Arizona's already underfunded schools. Why don't I get a private security voucher instead of regular police? Can I have a few thousand to hire a personal security guard? How about a personal fireman? Does that sound like a ridiculous thing to expect? Why? If taking funds directly from a public institution to help pay for my private wants sounds weird, why does it seem to make sense for the voucher program when it comes to schools? Arizona politicians continue to run on the slogan, school choice, and that means vouchers. Right after the portion of the budget used to end the teacher strike was signed by the governor, the next topic was expanding the school voucher program, a program that actively undermines the stability of public school funding. Because that's the end goal for most Arizona conservatives. Eliminate public education. Part 3. Why you should care. Public education is an essential public service whether you have kids or not. Through these strikes, the biggest complaint against them was either think of the children or teachers are being tricked into supporting a secret socialist agenda, but more on that later. Not everyone can afford to go to a private school, and for millions of families, public school is the only option. The damage to one's education that can be done over the course of a 9-day strike pales in comparison to the damage done by 13 years of a bad education. Underfunded schools lead to larger class sizes, schools that are less safe due to inadequate staffing, outdated textbooks, lack of resources, you name it. Low teacher salaries lead to people like me being the current generation of public school teachers. Teaching is a side hustle now, and nearly every teacher I've ever worked with has at least 2 jobs or relies heavily on their spouse's income to make things work. I used to have 2 roommates, now down to just 1 because luckily I begged hard enough on Patreon to make things work when one of the roommates moved out. And I'm relatively lucky. I have 3 jobs that I love. I don't have to be both teacher and Applebee's night manager. I don't expect to be treated like royalty or make a 6-figure salary or whatever, but if you follow what's supposed to be a reasonable career path, work hard through college, dedicate yourself to what's supposed to be an honorable profession, and still have to ask your mom for help paying down your $80,000 in student loans, it becomes hard not to start seeing the American dream for the dark, hope-destroying lie that it has become. I moved to Arizona because all it takes to get a teaching job in the state is a certification. Oh, wait, you don't even need that anymore. Arizona has an estimated 2,000 vacant teacher positions across the state that are being haphazardly band-aided over with long-term substitutes, assistant principals covering classes, or a completely unqualified schmo with a bachelor's degree and an emergency certification. At least they recognize that it's an emergency. Imagine your doctor. Well, no, we don't even have to go that far. Imagine the truck driver sitting next to you in traffic. Didn't have a commercial driver's license. Well, I don't know, they probably know how to operate the thing. Who cares? Let's send them out on the freeway and never check in with them. If you don't have kids, well, you're probably better off. Especially if you want to support a family on a teacher's, or even worse, a classified school employee's salary. But my point. The whole point of putting kids in school for 13-ish years isn't just to benefit the kids themselves, but society as a whole. Most people you interact with on a day-to-day basis are recipients of an American public school education. These people will be your nurses when you grow old, your food handlers for your wedding, your Uber drivers, your freaking hairdressers, whatever. Every single member of our society benefits from more education, whether as a direct recipient or not. I told you I was going to talk about the socialism aspect of this, and that's where the logic gets weird to me. Few people in the U.S. will openly attack teachers, so the new tactic seems to be to say teachers have been tricked by a socialist agenda, because the word socialism makes people think of Venezuela and Stalin for some reason, because communism is the same thing. So I'm going to talk about the social fundings of things. What does that mean? Well, pretty much any program that benefits society and is paid for by society, like through taxes, it is a socially funded program. That's what I mean. You very rarely hear people on the right complain about police funding. You pretty much never hear a Republican propose cuts to police budgets or defense budgets or firefighting budgets, even though all of these programs are socially funded. Why then is public education seen as different? If you got on Twitter and started ranting about the overpaid, lazy police, you'd be crucified. Lazy, overpaid teacher? Meh. I think it's because the benefit of things like police, firefighters, ambulances, etc., are far more immediate than the benefit of a quality public education. When the cops stop a robbery, boom, benefit. When a kid gets through school and ends up as a productive member of society, I believe that education contains the solution to every problem that society faces, and is thus the most important social service provided by a government. Educated people end up in jail less frequently than non-educated people, to a significant degree, too. Specifically, violent crime is greatly reduced among people with at least a high school education. Same goes for homelessness, drug addiction, poverty, you name it. If you're a conservative that believes that anyone is capable of achieving whatever they want if they work hard enough, then this is right up your alley. I want to give people the best possible starting conditions at life, and there is no more important step to take than getting them through school. And if you don't think that's worth funding, well, you're frankly wrong. All right, so like it's already 100 degrees out here in the Phoenix, and I can't really record with that, and there's no central air in this room, so you just kind of gotta I have about 5 seconds before it gets unbearably warm in this room. All right, here we go. So if you're checking out my hat today, I know it's kind of old and lumpy and has like a bunch of fuzz on the back of it, but it's like one of my only, I don't have a Penguins hat, and the Penguins are trying to not get eliminated from the playoffs right now, so.
They have defeated the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Do you three leave in Stanley Cups after love? We have to beat the Capitals. We usually can, but welcome back to Comment Corner. I think that's what I call it. I'm calling it Comment Corner for now, and I don't care. All right, let's go to the guns video, because this one's a little bit more fun to deal with. I'm actually kind of surprised at how little pushback I got from this whole situation. So first I want to talk about Mango Wolf. I don't want to just highlight people who agree with me, but hey, at least from the beginning of this comment, it looks like I've, I don't know, exceeded their expectations. And then like right under that comment we have who is this? This is Zach Brenner, and there's a weird amount of people who think that we just as a populace could overthrow the United States government and military, and usually they either have they'll say, oh well, once we start fighting, a lot of the US military will just like change sides and fight with us. And I'm like, Have you ever looked at countries that have like little revolutions and protests, stuff like that? I even mentioned Venezuela in my video. Things are terrible over there right now, but the military is not flipping around, because the military is one of the only places that's still like kind of stable, and you get a paycheck and you get food. The argument that he makes is that we outnumber the military, and in theory, if every healthy adult American went and tried to fight the U.S. military at the same time, I don't know. And now I want to get into somebody who like really disagrees with me. So this is from, how come dragons all have names that I can't pronounce? This is either Bowen, or something like that, the dragon. And his biggest argument seems to be that we've already tried the things that I've asked us to do. And I would say, like, not really in the US. And as much as people want to say that the reason we have so much gun violence compared to other countries that have made rules is that, well, the US is a different country and we have different backgrounds. And I'm like, well, okay. U.S. is a different country. I think we should like try some things. Like, you can't take some of the comparisons from other countries and then throw out others. Yeah, murder still happens in the UK and Australia, but not with guns. And like, as much as you want to say, yeah, you could go and stab somebody. Okay, if you can stab 50 people in one go and kill 50 of them, 47 of those people, like you watched 3 people get stabbed and you didn't run away. That's definitely some comedian's joke. It's extremely easy for any citizen to kill a lot of people with a firearm. It is not easy for just your average person to pick up a bat and beat 20 people to death in a church. Like, that's not... Do you see how the things... I understand the argument that yes, people will commit violence against one another no matter what tools they are limited to, but why would you not try to limit some of those tools, the ones that you can effectively point at someone and just turn off their life immediately? I think that is different from knives. That's different from clubs. Heck, knives are more restricted in this country. Like, go buy a switchblade. And the way they end their comment is saying that these new rules would only punish law-abiding people. And I'm like, do driver's licenses punish law-abiding drivers? Does a motorcycle testing requirement punish law-abiding motorcycle drivers? I don't know. I think it sounds kind of extreme. I don't view myself as punished when I have to like stand in line, fill out some paperwork in order to have an instant kill someone machine. That brings us to our closing bit. I mentioned Patreon in this video angrily. I genuinely could not continue to do the amount of creative things that I am able to do in between all these jobs without people's help on Patreon. Putting your names at the ends of the credits on my stuff is really less than you guys deserve, but I appreciate you sticking around. And if you want to add your name to this list, get in the thing. I'm Pepper Coyote on Patreon. You just put in your credit card and you send your money away to a company that takes some of it and then gives me some of it also. Thanks to all my patrons, but special thanks to Allie, Glasan, Petrahov Neutrino, Ethan Long, Musical Husky, Blue Gray Fox, Bryant Holmes, Grace Jane Gollinger, Omega Dragon, East Shore, Pone E. Sharp, Silver God Oman, Wheelie, Mama T, Jacob Stellato, Christofferson, Seabeer Lupus, Cheesy Feline, Ren Yina, Finnish Analytical Marxist, Dusty Montail, Kanan, Dead Peacat, Webster Leone, Yox, Ty Husky, Silverwolf 1122, Ricardo Hompus, Ralph Clamar, Matthew B, Sully Ecke, Brendan McFancy Fox, Strontium, Sophidius, Cyphodius, I was here on Foxamore, Ruth, Bubbles Fennec, and Fur. If you want me to say your name at the end of a thing, give me $5. You better do it. Bye, guys.